me now is Brooke Shields. This past year, she appeared in the Broadway production of Grease. She has an upcoming film entitled Freeway with Kiefer Sutherland. And this Sunday, she'll be guest starring in a special hour-long episode of Friends immediately following the Super Bowl. And Brooke is in our Los Angeles studio. Hi, Brooke.
Hi.
Did you hear any of that about Howard Stern?
Yeah, I did, actually. And that's reminiscent of when I was a child and I was sort of faced with antagonistic interviewers. And, you know, you never wanted to believe that they were talking ill about you or that they were trying to insult you, and yet I remember being uncomfortable many times.
When you were like what age?
I made my first movie when I was 9. But I think the fury from Pretty Baby when I was about 12. That's when all the press was being done, and that's when...
Where you played a prostitute, and you had some difficult interviews after that?
Well, the frenzy of... I'm hearing myself, sorry. The idea that it was a child playing a prostitute, even though it was a Louis Malle film and it was very artistically done, there was this obsession with my sexuality. I mean, something that I didn't even have that intact at age 12, and yet my knowledge of prostitution was 42nd Street, and here I was presenting and living in a world that was very beautiful. Sven Nykvist filmed it. Louis Malle is an artist, and so I was trying to justify and present my beliefs in the story, and the idea of my exploitation was being broadcast.
Because they were talking about your exploitation when in fact you were a character in a movie about a child prostitute.
Exactly. The thing that I think was difficult for me to understand was that when I was younger, everybody was always trying to make me look older. And the provocative pictures that were taken that I had fun doing merely because I was playing a part and dressing up and feeling pretty. And that's important for a little kid. I still went to school, and I still had to take care of the kitty litter, and I still, you know, had all what would be considered a rather conventional life, but I had this sort of sideline, and people obsessed over it.
But when you were getting ready to do Pretty Baby, of course you probably had no idea what a prostitute even was.
Well, no, my knowledge really was 42nd Street. I mean, I grew up in Manhattan, and I saw the poverty, and I saw the fear, and I saw the sort of degradation of females on that level. And this story was set in the early 1900s, where all the girls had a family. They lived in a wonderful home. They were fed, they were clothed. So to me, it was more of a glorification of the profession rather than what I thought prostitution really was.
You think prostitution should be legal? I know that. I think Heidi Fleiss is they asked me if you want to have Heidi Fleiss as a guest. I said, boy, you know, what do you think, Brooke? I mean, it's a tough question. I mean, what do you think?
I think if it's legalized, I think that it'll just, I mean, it's already rampant, but I think it would be way too available and demoralizing to women. I think that the more prohibited it is, although they say that things that are prohibited are more interesting to people, I think that it shouldn't be legalized. I think because then you're dealing with, you know, at what age is it legal? And so I'm sure it'll be legal for a certain age, or is it just 18 or just 21?
And there's something about making something legal that a young woman might think, well, this is okay. Why would they make it legal if it wasn't okay?
And I'll be all right. And somehow there's a support system that's intrinsic to something being legal. And I think that that's just, women don't need that.
And so now you've done so many things, and here you are on this on Friends, which follows the Super Bowl. What's that like?
Being on Friends was an honor, and it was a great deal of fun. I had just come off Broadway and doing a mini-series, and so to be able to do live television like that, I had never done live situation comedy before.
You mean and to be in front of an audience, right?
Exactly. A live audience, opposed to a dead one.
Well, most of the audiences on the laugh tracks, unfortunately, are deceased people. Those laugh tracks were made many years ago, so you're hearing a lot of deceased people laughing.
So I guess they do need to make the distinction for live audience.
Right. This is actually a live audience for Friends.
Exactly. Living and breathing. And they didn't use a laugh track. We had real honest live laughter. It's the perfect combination of stage and film. because it's rehearsed from the day. The creative process involved in situation comedy was something I'd never experienced before. I had been on Broadway, been in plays, and obviously done films, but this was the perfect combination of the two. And the creative process that you're involved in is fascinating. I mean, from day one to the day you film it in front of the audience, so much changes, and I thought that kind of creativity was, I appreciated it.
Where'd you do Blue Lagoon in the movie? That was what it was called, right? Blue Lagoon?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you do that?
It was in Fiji.
Did you get sunburn?
I actually, strangely enough, lost all the pigment in my skin. I had too much sun, so I got like speckled spots, and every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning I had to be sort of dipped in this fake tan because my skin was rejecting the sun.
You know, it's weird what my head goes to. I had Lonnie Anderson on the show, and she writes in her book about dancing nude with Burt Reynolds on their first date, and my mind immediately goes to mosquitoes.
Itching,
how cold
hot.
is it? I don't know what that says about me, you know. I mean,
you're a realist, I think.
Maybe that's what I just have this pragmatic. I'm more interested in temperature and mosquitoes because, you know, you can dance nude indoors as well.
You can, but you don't get sand in your bathing suit or in other places.
We're coming up to a break. There's a lot of stuff I want to ask you about. I don't want to get into the relationship between you and your mother at this moment because we just have 30 seconds, and that's a lifetime story. I know that your mother is no longer your manager right now. Is that right?
That's correct. She's
right.
Still my mother and not
She's
my
your
manager.
mother.
She's my mother.
Not your mother/manager. So,
no.
which may be, you know, that's it's. But we're gonna go to a break. We're gonna come back. I want to talk to you about your relationship with your mother, who was so instrumental. I think when I first met you, you might have been about a teenager. And, of course, your mother was with you as well. She should be, because, you know, my mother is most of the time with me as well, and I'm out of my teens. We'll be right back with Brooke Shields and Robert Klein coming up.
If you wish to purchase a copy of this program, please send $24.95 plus $5 for shipping and handling for a videotape, along with name, air date, and subject of the program to Burrell's, P.O. Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039. For credit card orders, please call 1-800-777-8398.
Clearly, Brooke, when you became a model at 11 months, it wasn't your idea. So your mother was your manager for how much? Until what? How long was she your manager?
Honestly, till about a year ago.
A year ago.
She, you know, my mom has been right there by my side through all of it,
right.
And I had time to really think about what I wanted to change about 2 years ago, actually. And I just decided I needed to be making, if there were mistakes to be made, I needed to be making them. I had foot surgery, so I was sort of laid out for a while, and I really was taking everything into account. You know, and after college, I spent 4 glorious years at university and had time to cultivate things that I wanted to in my mind and enjoy myself academically. And then I kind of came back out and didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I just knew that I needed to be more in control of my days and my destiny, for lack of a better way of putting it. And I just approached her with it, and I said, you know, this is what I need to do right now for my own confidence, because my level of confidence was slipping because I was relying so much on my significant parent.
So when your mother no longer became your manager, of course somebody else did, right?
I did. I had
an agent.
Not wanted to. Yes. Well, I went back with an agency. I was afraid to really be completely on my own.
Well, you shouldn't be. No, you shouldn't be.
No, so I did. I got another manager, and I went back with William Morris, my agency, and I just sort of got into the game of all of it more. And it's frightening because I'm used to having someone as a buffer, and so now the insecurities that I feel and what I see on a daily basis, I'm realizing the extent that she went to protect me from it, yeah, and blindfold me from it, really, which was healthy when you're younger. I think it's dangerous continued.
And the relationship, I'm sure that was difficult, but right now, it's your mother.
And it's hard because, you know, what do you talk to about with your mother when you're
Yeah.
used to talking about business all the time. And so we're trying to find what works as mother-daughter and what doesn't. And that's just, we're reintroducing ourselves to each other, and it's not easy.
I admire you. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to do. It's very difficult to say anything to anyone about anything, let alone, Mom, I don't want you to be my manager anymore. I mean, it is. I mean,
and it's hard to trust yourself when you've always had somebody to run something by, and all the person would have to do is say, yes, it's okay, you're okay. And now I have to be the one to say I'm okay, and that's not, it's not very easy on a daily basis.
How long have you been with Andre Agassi?
We've been together 2 years.
And does he, obviously a great tennis player, he's not a performer in any way. I mean, he's not active in show business in any way other than being a tennis player, right?
He's the antithesis of that. He loathes it. He doesn't, he has a hard time just watching things that I do.
Really?
I think there's a different arena that he performs in. I mean, to a certain extent, he is a performer.
Now, he travels a lot, right?
Yes.
And you go with him sometimes, but not always.
Sometimes, but not always. It's important for me to support him, but it's also important for me to maintain my own identity. And it's the sort of an easy equation for people to want to glom onto the fact that I'm a groupie or that I'm traveling with him everywhere. And it's been hard to maintain our separation on that level. But the more work that I do, the more differentiated we're becoming. But it's very important for me to be in the stands and watch him and support him, as it is I ask of him the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's important for me to know that he's in support of me and he's watching me.
Let's take a phone call. Fran from New York, do you have a question for Brooke Shields?
Yes. How did you meet Andre?
A mutual friend of ours had been trying to introduce us for about a year. And then we met through writing to each other. We wrote to each other for about 3 months. I was away on location, and we sort of corresponded by fax, and it was a fax romance, very 90s.
How old were you when you first did the Calvin Klein ads?
Oh, gosh, I was about 15.
And you know the recent uproar about the recent Calvin Klein ads.
Well, I mean, I was a minor when I was doing the Calvin Klein ads. I think what was provocative about it was slightly different. There's more of an androgyny, sexual, sort of blatant sexual tone now. But, you know, I think if there was an uproar over ours, too, when I was younger.
Was that with nothing comes between me and my Calvins? Was that your line? Is that what
it was? You want to know what comes between me and my Calvins? Nothing. And it was this, you know, I mean, at that time, I was, you know, I didn't think of the extent that they took it to sexually.
Did you see those
15.
recent ads that were out that there was a lot of protest about?
I actually haven't seen them. I've seen the print ads. I don't know if were they what the controversy was about?
Yeah, the bus. And I think the first question was, how old are these kids? Are they under 21? Well, of course, I don't remember. I mean, I know you were, as you said, were 15. So you can't really compare your ads with these ads because you're not as familiar with the present ad, the later ads, right?
Right. I'm not. Well, what I do know about them is just from what I've seen on the buses in New York. But I think it's just a controversy. People are looking for more controversy to focus on. I mean, if you want to talk purely about age, then that's going to open up an entire other issue. I mean, I've always been a minor, you know, when I was mostly doing the print that I did.
I think you're talking about the sexual exploitation, really what I was talking about Howard Stern, about looking at a 9-year-old child on television who's thrilled that her dad's football team is winning and speculating about her sexually. I think, and looking at these children who are supposed to be selling clothes, or however old they are, they look like teenagers, and they're erotic ads. I think that's what the complaint is about.
Well, I think the complaint, too, is also about how how easy it is to be so verbal about all of it. I mean, it's almost as if to comment on a 9-year-old that you see is wrong because you're ripping that innocence away from her, and she hasn't asked for that at all. I mean, I think that's a completely different issue. I mean, it's a shame
and this child wasn't a model. She wasn't a Calvin Klein. She was just on television with her family.
Dad.
I mean, and it was beautiful to see it.
And that's the problem. I think it's become so accepted to be able to destroy that innocence, to sort of just attack it with no reason whatsoever. And the problem is, I think, with advertising, anything goes, and now it's just become, can you top this, and what can we do for more shock value?
Well, that's why I think we say we don't want to have censorship. I think we do want to have censorship. We have censorship. We don't just do anything, and I think people say you can't legislate morality, but we do legislate morality. We do say what you can do and what you can't do and what's legal and what's not legal. And I, for one, it's necessary in a civilized society to have a certain amount of censorship. Otherwise, people just run rampant for money, and there will always be people out there that will respond to it.
And there's always something that people want to try to top. I think we do need censorship on that level, because we can't ask for that freedom and then complain about how we feel about it. We can't say that we want that type of
well, I'm sorry, Brooke, we come to the end of it, but he's got the freedom to say it. We've got the freedom to say it's a lot of junk, and it should be censored. But thanks, Brooke. Sorry to be abrupt, but we got these computer breaks. Pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I'm a fan of yours.
Thanks, Brooke.
I've always been.
We'll be right back with Robert Klein and later Terry Garr.
This program is